In this week's Blizz Pro Weekly, the closing act for BlizzCon has been revealed, Blackthorn is now available for download for PC, hotfixes in WoW bring a nerf to LFR, WCF standings have been finalized, and what legendaries should you be crafting first in Hearthstone? Hey guys, welcome to the newest episode of Blizz Pro Weekly. As always, I'm your fantastic host, Chris the Beard Arnone. Yes, that's me once again. This is our last Blizz Pro Weekly until BlizzCon, at which point, of course, there will be just shit tons of video coming at you from that location. I'll be there, JR, Paul the cameraman. We're going to have a whole crew there. It's going to be awesome. Speaking of which, let's dig right into some news about BlizzCon. So Blizzard took their time announcing this one, but we finally know who will be performing at BlizzCon this year for the big sort of closing act concert. It seems they couldn't find anybody who's been relevant in the last 20 years, so instead they picked up Blink 182, alright? So they're going to be joining the ranks of such famous acts as Ozzy Osbourne, Tenacious D, and the Foo Fighters as those closing musical acts. Now, so for fans who are interested in partying like it's 1999, we'll probably hear some of their hits from, say, Enema of the State, back when people actually cared. Needless to say, I'm sure it will still be a pretty good time. All right. So, community manager Fento hopped on the forums the other day to announce that all BlizzCon attendees will receive a code that allows them to access the BlizzCon virtual stream. So if you've ever been to a BlizzCon, you know there's one thing you know. You can't possibly see everything you want to see. It's just not feasible. Blizzard's running back-to-back panels on 2 different stages. eSports is running down a 3rd stage. You gotta take a piss once in a while. You gotta eat sometimes. Let's not forget taking time to actually play a demo or 2. Adding the virtual ticket to the goodie bag has been one of the most asked for changes to the convention, and now those attending physically will not have to miss a thing. One word of caution, though, for you attendees. The code for the virtual ticket will be tied to the code for the virtual goodies. So keep that in mind before you want to give away those good, pet codes to a friend of yours. Now, if you watched our BlizzCon survival guide last week, we told you to buy a virtual ticket so that you can see the stuff you missed. Well, if you did take our advice already and you did that, never fear. You can contact Blizzard customer service and ask for a refund. They will happily oblige. Now, once again, if you're attending like us, and you have a smartphone, the Blizzcon Mobile App is now available for you to download both Android and iPhone. The mobile app has a full schedule, allows you to add panels to your own personal schedule, has a map, and a lot of other cool features to help you during the show. Definitely a useful tool if you're going to be there in Anaheim with us. And if you're going to BlizzCon, you make sure you swing by the Meeting Stone Saturday at 2 p.m. if you want to meet up with us. We're going to have a small Blizz Pro Twizcast meetup kind of thing. Joining us will also be some popular Twitter personalities such as the Shaw of Happiness and Angry Orc, and we'll have some SteelSeries swag to give away. And, we tried to get a dunk tank, but they had a problem with the water and throwing balls, and so we thought maybe something like... No, that's not it. I was thinking more the oh, I know. You remember this. Con los terroristas. And do the Harlem Shake. That's right. I'm going to try to convince JR to wear his horse mask, so maybe you can slap him around a bit. It's just so much fun. It really is. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about something you probably didn't expect. Blackthorn. So something strange recently popped up on Battle.net. Now, if you were born before 1994, you squealed with delight. Born after, you were probably really confused. Blizzard has made available the old 1994 Super Nintendo classic called Blackthorn, now as a free Windows downloadable on Battle.net. You go to your Battle.net account, go to the game client's downloads, and you will see Blackthorn available there under the classic game titles. This is the first console game Blizzard has made available for PC, And it makes us wonder, will we see more? We are keeping our eyes out and fingers crossed for both rock and roll racing and Lost Vikings. You know what I'm talking about. All right, World of Warcraft time.
Here's the beef.
So patch 5.4.1 dropped this week, and it was a fairly small patch, all things considered. But some hotfixes have already been applied to the patch, and those include up to a 15% nerf on some LFR battles in the Siege of Orgrimmar. Now, 6 of the tougher bosses for LFR groups to handle have had their health reduced, which follows a good month or so of forum posts from players complaining about the difficulty of the Siege of Orgrimmar in raid finder mode. Now, the main argument seems to be the advent of flexible raiding, which has diluted the pool of good LFR players. This leaves mostly some AFKing healers, stand-in-the-fire DPSers, and tanks that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. So there's a fine line when it comes to player entitlement, but we think, based on the sheer volume of complaints, Blizzard has made the right move here. If flex raiding is the way of the future, then LFR needs to meet the needs of a different target audience. An audience looking more for an experience akin to the 5-man dungeon model, where you just turn up and blast right through with only 1 or 2 real mechanics to deal with at any time. They aren't looking at a sort of progressive experience. They're just looking for, maybe an hour worth of fun, just having a good time for a little bit. Hopefully it's just a teething issue to sort of deal with, flex as it gains popularity. And LFR players can go back to enjoying raiding rather than feeling like, they need 5 stacks of determination to get a damn thing done. All right, enough World of Warcraft. How about eSports and StarCraft 2?
You want a piece of me, boy?
The WCS Season 3 finals have ended, and Deer, the WCS Korean Season 3 winner, took home the prize in Season 3 finals, as well as beating Soul Key for nothing. Some cool facts about the WCS right now. Deer only had 25 WCS points going into Season 3, but by working his way up through Challenger League to qualify for the Premier League. Now, by winning both WCS Korea and then WCS Season 3, he was able to qualify for BlizzCon and moved up to 6th place in the standing. Plus, with that momentum, he really is one of the favorites to win the whole damn thing. Naniwa was able to stay alive and be the only foreigner who will be at BlizzCon. He needed several people to pretty much just royally suck in the grand finals, and with Soul Key winning the semifinals, that grabbed the spot for Naniwa. Now, Naniwa might still have a best of 5 at BlizzCon against Revival. If Revival wins in Challenger League, then he will tie Naniwa for the 16th spot. Whoever wins the best of 5 at BlizzCon will be granted that number 16 seed to play in the event. Another note, if Naniwa wins, he will face number 1 ranked Soul Key in the first round, facing the player that helped him get to BlizzCon in the first place. Now, the top 16 players have been posted. The only shakeup was Deer advancing to BlizzCon and potentially knocking Revival out of that final spot. You can view the entire standings and the full bracket for BlizzCon at starcraft2.com/WCS. Let's talk about those digital cards with Hearthstone.
Pull up a chair by the heart.
So, the question comes up frequently, what legendary should I craft? In fact, it comes to JR quite a bit. People who, are in the closed beta for Hearthstone, and, they get to the point where they finally have enough dust to craft a legendary. Which one should they make first? It's a good question, and there are a lot of options out there. Some are better than others. If you have a specific class you want to play, then each class has its own legendary card that tends to be pretty darn good. However, you probably want the legendary that will give you the most utility and the best bang for your buck. This means getting a legendary that will fit in as many decks as possible and as many archetypes as possible. So the following, according to Eldorian JR, are the top 3 legendary cards you should look to crafting before all others. Now, if you don't open them, you should definitely go in and craft them. Number 3, Blood Mage Thalnos. Now, Blood Mage Thalnos is a 1/1 minion for 2 mana with the text Spell Damage +1, Death Rattle, Draw a Card. Now, at first you think this is kind of crazy. Blood Mage Thalnos is the number 3 to craft. He's a measly 1/1 for 2 mana, but here's where he gets special, alright? +1 spell damage, and if he dies, you draw a card. It's sort of like if Cobalt Geomancer and Loot Hoarder got together and made a baby. Blood Mage Thanos would be the result, though that's kind of really disturbing to imagine. All right, the real value of Blood Mage Thanos is he will fit in pretty much every deck because close to every deck will benefit from spell damage and drawing cards. In this game, it's a really good way to win. If your opponent decides to waste a silence on this guy, then they have a lot of other problems to worry about down the road. Number 2, Ysera. Ysera is a 4/12 minion for 9 mana. Her text reads, at the end of your turn, draw a dream card. Ysera can also go in nearly every deck, and quite often if you see someone playing Ragnaros, they will also have Ysera in the deck as well. She will also give you immediate benefit of not just having a 4/12 in play, which is kind of like having a brick wall on the board, but also gives you a free card at the end of your turn in the form of a dream card. Get to that in a little bit. Now, if you played Ragnaros turn 8 and your opponent had to deal with him, and then turn 9, you drop Ysera, your opponent's going to have a tough time. It nearly guarantees you victory right there because they've probably put so much into effort into dealing with Ragnaros. Now, your opponent could silence her, giving you still an effective 4/12, and if you're lucky, you might have gotten the dream card, Dream, which you'll get to play on Ysera and drop her once again. Now, Ragnaros and Ysera make a great team in nearly any non-aggro deck. Now, some of the dream cards, I said we would get to it, do crazy things. Like you can return a minion to a player's hand for no mana. You can get a 7/6 minion for 4 mana, or deal 5 damage to all characters except Ysera for 2 mana. They're all just crazy powerful cards. And our number 1 legendary you should craft first in the Hearthstone closed beta, Ragnaros the Firelord. Now, Ragnaros is an 8/8 creature who costs 8 mana. His text reads, can't attack. At the end of your turn, deal 8 damage to a random enemy. Now, this guy fits in nearly every single deck. He is a pure game changer when he hits the board. Plop him down on your 8th turn, he is going to do 8 damage to something at the end of the turn. Now, if you can wipe your opponent's minions before the end of the turn, it's 8 damage straight to your opponent. That's powerful. Now, your opponent will also have limited ways that they can deal with him, unless they're a priest with mind control. If they silence him, he becomes an 8/8 that can attack because you've silenced his inability to attack. And if your opponent does nothing, then something on their side of the board is going to take 8 damage every single turn. They'll have to spend their removal spells or trade several creatures to bring him down. In the end, that gains you some board control of your own, and quite possibly a good card advantage. Ragnaros should always be your number 1 choice. Those are our picks for the top 3 legendaries, and there are more on the list. For the full list, check out the article hearthstone.blizzpro.com Eldorian put together. It's a good read. Now, last week we talked about MLG Mana Grind Tournament, and that both Zenstyle and Eldorian were entering. Sadly, neither of them reached their goal. They both wanted to make the top 16. Well, Eldorian was knocked out in the second round, and Zenstyle was knocked out in the round of 32. However, it's worth mentioning, Zenstyle was beaten by Trump in that round, which is admirable because Trump is, as of right now, the only professional Hearthstone player getting the recent deal with Razer. Now, this week will feature another tournament run in the same way. Both Eldorian and Zenstyle will try again to see if they can break the top 16. This week, there's a small change to the rules. Each player will have to play the hero they started with instead of the loser being able to switch to a different hero. However, both players will be allowed 2 sideboard cards out after each match. Now, if you want to know how last week's tournament went down, who won, and what the deck list looked like, go check out the Mana Grind recap, hearthstone.blizzpro.com. Now, there is no bitch session this week as we gear up for BlizzCon, so be sure to subscribe and expect a fuck ton of video content coming from us straight from Anaheim next week, all right? So like I said, subscribe here, like us, good stuff. Check out Twizcast, our official podcast. Listen to them and subscribe. Me, I'm all over the internet, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. I'm a Goodreads author. And of course, you want to check out BlizzPro.com. All the news, reviews, interviews, everything you need to know about Blizzard Entertainment games. Stay beardy, my friends.